Welcome to Let's Talk Ball. I'm Chad Brown along with Carl Jones. Every single week we break down the Bills game by game, watching the X's and the O's from the All-22 feeds. Today we're talking about Bills and Bucks. I know that game is a few days old, but it is the most recent game. But before we get to that, the Bills made a move at the trade deadline. I think we both like it. I think everybody likes it because it makes sense, because it's a good player. Adding Rasul Douglas from the Packers. You spent quite a while today kind of going through his film, breaking down what he does, maybe what he doesn't do. Give me your thumbnail sketch on what the Bills are getting.
He's a good scheme fit. I mean, anyone who's watched the Bills in the Sean McDermott era knows that they're a very zone-heavy defense, right? So they're going to a lot of cornerbacks. You want eyes back to the football. A lot of guys who are good in terms of reacting to routes, and he's excelled in that over the past 3 years. 10 interceptions during that time frame, third in the NFL. So clearly he has a knack for getting the ball out of the air, which the Bills, quite frankly, haven't had. They haven't. I mean, I don't have the statistic in front of me, but I know the corners haven't had a lot of interceptions over the past 2 years, and a lot of that is without Trey White. But regardless, he's going to bring that to the table, an aggressive corner, for better or for worse. And the reason I say that is that he has a tendency to be a little aggressive, and he can get double moved a lot, whether that's an out and up, which Stephon Diggs beat him on last year when they played when the Packers played the Buffalo Bills, So that's where it's a little bit of a give and take, where some of that aggressiveness is great for a defense. Taking the ball back is always a plus. However, sometimes you're going to give up plays back playing on that fine line of aggressiveness. So I think he's a good fit. He's a big corner. He can play man when asked to. Is his strongest suit? No, I wouldn't say that. But out of the guys they have in that room, I would think he steps in and is the best one from day one.
6'2", so he's one of the bigger corners they've had in a while. Not super fast. You said he ran a 4.6 40. So, I mean, whatever. I mean, they do have, Kyer Elam has been a fast guy. That's never worked out. So it's not like you have to have speed, but this is the guy they're getting. And, I think certainly an improvement. I'm not going to sit here and say that you at home should be purchasing your Super Bowl hotel now because they've added Rasul Douglas, but a guy who's improved. And I think we both expect that he will play for Dane Jackson alongside Christian Benford, not the other way around.
Yeah, I would say so, based off the fact that Benford was ahead of Dane in the first place. So, yeah.
All right, so we'll get back to Douglas a little bit later on. We start talking quick about Bills-Bengals coming up this Sunday. But let's break down Bills and the Bucks. And I want to start on offense because when I left the stadium Thursday, my thought was, wow, the offense seemed to have figured a few things out. Then you watch the film, and you start to realize that what they figured out is that Tampa was terrible and just took advantage of it. The Bucks came in with a reputation of being a bad zone team, and they were. Now, I know they know where to be because throughout the film, they were pointing at each other, telling each other where to go, but no one would go to those spots. I thought both Bills' touchdown passes were egregious coverage mistakes. There was a long throw to Khalil Shakir earlier in the game where not only did they blow a stunt, where the two guys, instead of trying to twist around each other on the defensive line, just ran into each other and took each other out. The safety falls down and allows Shakir to get as open as he was. I mean, this was over and over and over, on top of the fact that they're just not really a good zone team. And to the Bills' credit, they were like the big brother sitting on top of the little brother squirming, where he can't do anything. The Bills realized that the Bucks could not defend them zone-wise, so they RPO'd them. They zoned them short to death. And again, give Ken Dorsey and Josh Allen credit for seeing the candy that they could take from a baby and doing it all night long. But in terms of, is this performance something the Bills can do over and over and over? I walked away from watching the film thinking, no, there's no way most of the defenses left on the schedule are going to play anywhere close to this poorly.
Well, I mean, the second half, I think, kind of speaks to that point. I mean, if they were able to do the same exact things that they did in the first half, schematically, the Bills tried the same stuff. The Bucks just made plays in the second half.
They weren't stupid.
Exactly. And, I mean, whether it was, I think that was Carlson Davis who had a good rep against Stephon Diggs on that third down.
That's exactly what it was.
So, the Bucks just played better in the second half, and it showed. So it wasn't like, I know when you're watching it live, the Bills took their foot off the gas, right? They didn't try as hard in the second half. No, they was trying all right. It's just Tampa Bay was like, all right, we get paid to play football. Let's actually start playing football and play at a high level. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. The tempo was encouraging to see. The 11 personnel, all that good stuff was fun in the moment. But then you watch it back, you're like, I don't know if that's a throw away everything we've done in the past. Let's ride with that now.
Yeah, this is not something where the corner has been turned. Good job on taking advantage of that, but there's still much more work to do. One point I want you to make, because I asked you about this before, can tempo cause some of those coverage breakdowns?
Yes, I know playing at the collegiate level, tempo is everywhere, right? Because, no huddle and all that good type of stuff, signs, which is a huge thing in college football right now in its own right. But regardless, 100%. And usually when you play against a team that's up-tempo really, really fast, the defensive coordinator for that week dumbs down the playbook. We're going to stick with a lot of man stuff, a lot of cover 3, cover 4. So we're not going to get caught in some of this exotic stuff. And when we're communicating back here and, they're about to hike the ball and we're screwed. So, of course, that can happen, and that plays a role. And that's why a team like Tampa, who likes to get into the exotic stuff, maybe from time to time, when the Bills were going so fast, they got caught and like, oh, crap, I don't know where we're supposed to be because they're going so fast.
So you look at it, and you had Tampa on a short week, seeing Buffalo do something they haven't put on film. They weren't prepared for it. They have a defense that plays into making that a little more successful from the Bills' point of view. So, again, a number of things where you say that what happened on that Thursday night is not something the Bills should expect to see again.
I agree wholeheartedly. But I will say the one thing that I will take from the Bills' offense that can be used down going forward is the RPO game. And that's something that the Bills did in the past. They've gotten away from it a little bit. They've gotten more to just traditional drop back. I love it because it's like they stole it right from the college game like 5 years ago, the NFL did. And it's a scheme. It's obvious to see. Josh Allen's reading something. It's run-pass option for those at home. That's what an RPO stands for.
Right.
Run, pass, or an option. So for a guy like Josh Allen, the option part of it is beautiful because he can always just take off. And Tampa never had an answer for it. I think that is something that, not 10 times like they ran Thursday night, but you can sprinkle that in 4 or 5 times a game. That's something that I think from Thursday night where the Bills need to put in every single week.
And create the easy money out of it, too, because the idea of the play is Josh Allen, you call essentially 2 plays, and Josh Allen just reads a linebacker, and if he goes left, you go with plan A. If he goes right, you go with plan B. So you don't have to worry about a defense having something to cover. They really never do if it's executed correctly. Quick hitters on offense for me. I thought Dalton Kincaid, now look, it's going to be a while before I think he is a maybe dominant tight end. But I saw more athleticism in this game than I have in the previous 4 or 5 games from him. Again, there were some man-to-man reps where he got stoned. But even beyond the catches people saw, I thought he was pretty good. I thought the offensive line as a whole had a better game. Not only just one-on-ones, but also against the blitz. They picked up a bunch of things. Osiris Torrance still not great, but better than he's been. Anything from you, individual player, kind of quick thoughts from the offense?
I will just say, watching it live, it felt like it, and when you watch it back, it really hit home. Khalil Shakir's run after catch early on in the game where he kind of set the tone with that physicality, that kind of permeated throughout the rest of the receiving group when they were trying to finish runs instead of just trying to go down when they catch the ball. That stuff is contagious. So I did like that watching it back. Physical runners, especially on the perimeters, corner's not trying to tackle. So the fact that
right.
Khalil Shakir set the tone early on, that did last throughout the game.
On defense, let's start with what the Bills did differently, largely differently, which was Jordan Poyer playing linebacker. Not all the time, but on obvious passing downs, they took Terrell Dotson out of the game and put Poyer in at linebacker with Taylor Rapp in the back playing safety. I liked it from the point of view that Poyer is 30 whatever, certainly on the backside of his career, coming off a year where he's had multiple injuries. It allows him to play in a smaller space, so you're not testing him in terms of speed and recovery and that kind of thing. So I think it does benefit him from that point of view. But give me your read on how it looked and how it broke down, especially from the coverage point of view, having Poyer in that spot.
I thought it was great because he's always been instinctual. And they made a couple plays. The drop pick, come on, man, we got to get those.
Yeah,
we got to get those. It was actually 2 drops you had. But the first one I'm not going to hit you too hard for. But a couple of those plays, he's always been an instinctual player. And like you said, maybe his athleticism isn't what it used to be. But when you're down there in the box, it doesn't need to be. For the Bills, they were kind of stuck. Dorian Williams is still kind of flying around things or going too fast for him. Terrell Dotson is just maybe a limited physically to a certain extent, so he's not great in the pass game. So you can get away with having Poyer out there, who's obviously much smaller than any other backer in the league. Obvious passing situations, second and long situations as well. Also against a team like Tampa, who quite frankly doesn't run the ball well. So I guess I leave the game wondering how much is this going to be temporary, permanent? Because I mean, Will situation, hasn't been rectified yet. I wonder how much is Poyer going to be using that spot going forward.
And the Bills did not add a linebacker at the trade deadline. So what they have is what they have. And let me talk about some of the theory of this, because I find myself, although I think the Bills are doing a nice job of using the personnel they have, and I think if you had to choose between Taylor Rapp and Terrell Dotson on the field in obvious passing situations, I would certainly go Rapp. That said, playing it that way, what you have now done is, with Matt Milano gone, that linebacker spot is fairly depressed. You're getting much less out of there. And although Poyer's a better player, he's not Matt Milano. He's not your typical NFL linebacker there. So that spot is still lesser, right? Well, now by putting Taylor Rapp at safety, now that spot is severely depressed. Because let's be fair, Taylor Rapp as a safety has been replacement level, maybe slightly above. This is not a guy who's starred there. He can play it. He's not killing you, but he's not a star. So although on the one hand, like I said, I think they're making the best use of what they have, is it smart to say we're going to solve our problem at one position by making another one on the field worse?
Once again, like you just said, I give credit to Sean McDermott for trying to figure out answers here. I mean, he's lost 3 all-pro caliber guys within the last month. The other guys have stepped in and haven't really done much. So I get it, trying to figure out answers. And against a team like Tampa with a quarterback back there who's very skittish, jumping around a lot, it works. I just wonder against a team who with a better passing attack, maybe who can actually run the ball and get you out of that dime look, even if it is 2nd and long. I'm sure there's certain teams out there who are like, you know what? It might be 2nd and 11. Ah, man, you got Jordan Poyer at backer. Let's run the ball anyway. So and I'm being serious when I say that. I do wonder how sustainable that defense is going forward.
Well, let's go right forward to Sunday then. When they play an offense that certainly can throw the hell out of the ball and certainly has a quarterback that will not get skittish in the pocket in Joe Burrow. When you're looking at T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd and Jamar Chase and, frankly, Joe Mixon in a running game that's not intimidating, but they have been getting better and better and better, and he almost put 100 on San Francisco last Sunday. So they don't suck at running back, that's for sure. What is the concern this weekend? And I want you to include, obviously, this isn't the same defense we saw at Tampa because you can likely insert Rasul Douglas into that mix.
Yeah, before Rasul Douglas became a Bill, I was very, very concerned because some of the coverages that the Bills were using against the Bucs, you look at it, you're like, man, Mike Evans, 3 catches, 39 yards, Godwin, 5 for 54. While they had them clamped up in Alcatraz, they were nowhere to be found. However, a lot of that had to do with the fact that every single snap on obvious passing downs, it was Christian Benford underneath and Micah Hyde directly over top. There was no
Mike Evans.
For Mike Evans, excuse me. There was no opportunity for Mike Evans to go down the field. Now, once again, I'm not knocking Benford for that. You do your assignment in your 111th every single play, and that's that.
And I thought he was good at that role.
Exactly. So I'm not dinging him for that. But what I'm saying is when you take away and you play 10 on 9 every single play, especially when the rest of the unit isn't elite, I mean, that's still Dane Jackson over there. Solid corner, not great. We still have Taylor Rapp on the field. We still have Jordan Poyer in a dime situation, somewhere where he's not used to being. We're still leaving those guys vulnerable, whether that's the passing attack, running game, so be it. So when you go against the Bengals, where if you want to do that against Jamar Chase, sure, but now Dane Jackson is over there with T. Higgins by himself. And that's why I was a little concerned. Going forward, you add Rasul Douglas. You may not have to have Micah Hyde over their best player every single snap. Now, will you do it from time to time? Duh, I hope so. But it helps out a ton when you have a veteran like Rasul Douglas, Christian Benford, who's getting better week by week against some of these more potent passing attacks in the NFL.
All right, the rest of the defense, I want to say that I thought Tampa's offensive line was ridiculously good. If you're at home thinking, wow, where was A.J. Epinesa? Where was Greg Rousseau? Well, they were getting blocked by a really good offensive line, or at least an offensive line that was certainly in sync. I mean, they were picking up, there's a tackle game that the Bills run all the time where Ed Oliver and Jordan Phillips cross. And it's usually impossible to stop because those two guys are way too quick for as big as they are. Tampa Bay absolutely erased it a couple times. I mean, they were really, really good. Tristan Wirfs is the name you know, but top to bottom, they were excellent in this game. So I thought Ed Oliver had a fine game, even though it wasn't much of an impact because of who they were going against. I will say that Von Miller, I thought, showed a little more burst. There were a few plays out of the 27 snaps he had where I was like, oh, that looks kind of somewhat threatening. He's not quite there yet, but Tampa offensively, you saw why Baker Mayfield is one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the NFL because they were really, really good with that.
And going off of that point a little bit further on the defensive line and how they played, they're going to have to continue their play up, especially if they're going to go to those dime looks because you don't need Jordan Poyer with offensive linemen on him. You don't need that.
In a blitz situation.
We don't need that. We don't need that. And even Terrell Bernard is not the biggest guy on the planet either. So the interior guys, those other guys are going to have to win, especially in the run game. Because I don't need an offensive lineman climbing up and like, oh, there goes 21. He weighs like 190 pounds.
Right.
So those guys didn't have the greatest game, obviously due to the guys that are across from them. But going forward, they're going to have to make sure that their game's going to keeps ascending, especially with who they have behind them.
Yeah, because I tell you what, Jordan Poyer and Terrell Bernard had multiple blitz reps because the Bills in that last drive could not get Tampa off the field. So Sean McDermott emptied the kitchen sink with blitzes, and he has some cool stuff in there. I mean, guys dropping, corners coming, whatever. But what you got to see is what Jordan Poyer and Terrell Bernard look regularly like in a blitz, and it ain't good. You know, like you said, they're smaller guys, and they got dominated. You know, and that's one of the underrated things the Bills lose with Matt Milano. Matt Milano, for my money, is the best blitzing linebacker in the NFL. That guy goes through blocks like, you know, you and I walk through tissue paper. I mean, it's unbelievable. And going from that to Poyer or Bernard is a huge drop. They were totally ineffective in that route. And I wonder how much the Bills, you know, you still got to do it to keep defenses honest, but the Bills were effective getting Taron Johnson in. They were effective, you know, back in the day blitzing Trey White. I wonder if you start, especially with a guy like Rasul Douglas, who's going to come in all out anyway, you might as well just send him to the quarterback. You know, that's where he's going. So I wonder if we see more of that, because they might be better off keeping Bernard and Poyer dropping as opposed to trying to go through guards and centers, because they just weren't good in this game at all.
I think with the guys in the back in the secondary maybe not being up to the traditional level that we've seen from the Bills defense, those guys up front, those four are going to have to win. Point blank period.
I think it means Von Miller getting healthier, you know, and Oliver doing his thing. I mean, I don't know how many offensive lines they're going to face again like this Tampa one, but they're not terrible either. They're going to play a pretty good one, I think, this week in Cincinnati. Anything else quick defensively? The other thing I had real fast was at tackle, I thought Jordan Phillips and Tim Settle were okay. Poona Ford had a nice second half. And I want to point that out. He hasn't played well all year. He's been healthy, scratched a lot. But not great, but if the Bills get that second half, the rest of the season from Poona Ford, you can rotate him and feel pretty good about it. Anything from you, quick hitting wise, on the defense?
I just want to say, I know I did say what I said about Benford. Having said that, he still played great. He had a nice play in the end zone where he knocked the ball out of Mike Evans' hand, and then also I wish he was like maybe a half inch taller, because that maybe would have been a PBU on the touchdown play. But regardless, he did do his job, and I thought that was encouraging. He's getting better week by week.
Quick, deep in the weeds question about that. I just thought of this. It looked like to me he got beat at the line, but I also was wondering, it's a fourth down, and it looked like the Bills had safety over the top. Did you think he was playing trail technique?
Oh, no, yeah, it's two-man, so it's 100% trail technique. So he was right. It's just
Right. And the ball still hit him in the head. You know, like, just take a bounce that's not right into the guy's arms, and you were probably fine. Yeah, so, yeah, I agree. I thought Benford had a really, really solid game. All right, like I said, coming up next, Bills and Bengals. This is going to be a fantastic game. Cincinnati looks like they're back to everything they were at the end of last season, so there will be a whole lot to talk about when Carl and I do this next week. Remember, you can find Let's Talk Ball at rochesterfirst.com, on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for watching and listening this week. For Carl Jones, I'm Chad Brown. We'll see you again next week on Let's Talk Ball.